Mankind finds itself plagued with a sudden, irrational fear of open spaces. A fear that grows so strong that it's capable of literally killing those who venture too far outside. With mankind confined to their homes, offices, and even the tunnels and sewers below, one man will risk his life to make it back to the one he loves. In The Last Days. Greetings, Cinemaniacs. I'm Cinematico Magnifico of AmoralCrackpot.com, and welcome to the Nightly Chill. Written and directed by Alex and David Pastor, The Last Days is a surprisingly unique twist on the end of the world. For one, the movie has little interest in its own apocalypse. Rather than something flashy, grotesque, or even monstrous, the catastrophe featured in The Last Days is fairly dull compared to those seen in similar films. There's no asteroid, no giant lizard, and no undead horde to be found here. Instead, people are essentially dying from severe panic attacks caused by a little sunshine and a gentle breeze. But while The Last Days sounds like it has far too much in common with M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, in which humanity is driven to commit mass suicide by way of angry trees and weaponized wind, it actually has a lot more in common with George A. Romero's various zombie apocalypse films. There are no zombies in The Last Days, of course, but like Romero's classic films, the hows and whys of the world ending are not important. In fact, this is all intentionally ignored so as to instead focus on the trials and tribulations of the would-be survivors. Now yes, characters do die. Yes, the movie reinforces that the characters are in constant danger. And yes, there are a few key set pieces intended to thrill and excite. This is all true, but through it all, the Pastors maintain their focus on the fear and desperation of characters like Kim Gutierrez's Mark, a father-to-be who is, along with his co-workers, trapped inside an office building in Barcelona, Spain, far away from their loved ones. As a result, the Pastors make sure to craft not only a frightening scenario, but a dramatically compelling and layered one. We aren't only shown the general vague doom and gloom. Instead, we're left to watch these people struggle in persistent dread and misery for nearly 20 minutes. We see them struggling to comprehend a mystery that threatens to kill them. We see them hungry and lining up for the smallest bit of food and water. We see them reflecting on past mistakes and grievances as they fake their way through a routine designed to create some remote facsimile of normality, watching TV, doing basic chores, digging literal holes. Whereas so many films are so quick to rush to some other aspect of their stories, The Last Days isn't afraid to take some time to dwell on the smaller moments. So by the time Mark is forced to make a choice between staying where he's been safe these past 3 months and reuniting with his girlfriend Julia, played here by Marta Atura, the persistent fear and depression and anxiety is as thick as the filth on everyone's once pristine outfits and styled hair. That said, there are times where The Last Days nearly shoots its own foot off. Much of this happens during the movie's second act, in which Mark and the man who was once determined to fire him, Enrique, played here by Jose Coronado, join forces to better their chances of finally returning home. It's at this point in the movie where it threatens to fully devolve into a fairly typical bit of urban crawling and survival, with these two men trekking through miles of Barcelona's sewers and buildings while avoiding various hazards and troublesome folks along the way. It not only becomes a very different movie, focused on brief, tense fits of action rather than smaller bits of character work, but it also absolutely loses any sense of originality that it cultivated in those first 20 or so minutes. Those even loosely familiar with these sorts of movies will notice that they've seen this all play out in one fashion or another before. We get the obligatory small group of thugs who hold our heroes hostage, a chase for a small but important MacGuffin, the two heroes who don't like each other eventually being given a solid reason to trust and even respect one another, a big noisy final showdown, and even an emotional parting of ways. Now, with all of that having been said, The Last Days still manages to work out for the best due to its steady stream of smaller, quieter moments, specifically those between Mark and Enrique and the flashbacks to a time just before the end of the world. It's during these moments that we get a far better film that smartly refocuses in on its characters and performances among all the been there done that set pieces. And while the climax of the film is almost but not quite as exciting as it is cliche, the epilogue in and of itself is a touching little short film that hints at what comes next, and without a blatant need to demand a sequel even happen. In short, what could have been an easily forgettable movie is instead saved in two ways. First, an uncreative second act is bookended by strong first and final acts. And second, this weak, long-spoiled middle section is also peppered by much more engaging material that keeps things respectably fresh. The Last Days is a film that certainly struggles to balance brilliant character work and performances with what I admit might be necessary if contrasting action and noise. Had the Pastores firmly focused more on the emotional journey of its two leads rather than the physical one, I would argue that it could have become the template all future post-apocalyptic films should be mimicking for years to come. But while that isn't quite the case, The Last Days is by no means a bad movie. In fact, it's quite enjoyable in spite of its various shortcomings. And for that, I suggest you chill with The Last Days. That's going to do it for this episode of The Nightly Chill. As always, this show is brought to you in part by our fans. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, like, follow, and share. And if you'd like to find even more reviews, or perhaps learn how to support the show, please visit amoralcrackpot.com. Finally, The Nightly Chill is written, voiced, and produced by me, Steve Arviso. Agree or disagree with today's review? Let me know however you can. But until next time, y'all need to make like a tree and get out of here.